Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Kaan, also known as Digester, and today we have another FIFA 21 tutorial video for you. There are some really important situations where you definitely have to use the right analog switches, so we are going to take a look at these situations and we're going to analyze how to use the right analog switches efficiently. We mostly mention the right analog switch almost in every single video about defense. Compared to the L1 switch, it gives you a lot of freedom. The L1 switch lets you select only one player, which gets marked by the AI. Meanwhile, you can use the right analog switch to take control of any player on the pitch. You can think of your currently selected player as the center of your right analog stick, and the only thing you have to do is to tap the right analog stick towards the other player, which needs to be selected. All of this sounds very simple, but you really need a good muscle memory and awareness to be able to use the right analog switch efficiently, because there will be some hard occasions where you need to use it more than once, so practicing it is crucial. Within the process, there is a common mistake that almost everyone makes at the start, which is to think a failure once you try to do a right analog switch. If you're new to this, you're most probably going to fail, but this is completely normal, and it shouldn't prevent you from learning it. Once again, I strongly recommend checking out our complete guide on player switches. Before we get started, I'd like to talk about our individual coaching services provided by Bpart Gaming. If you're interested in getting better at FIFA, our individual one-to-one coaching might be the right thing for you. Our Pro, Top 100, and Elite coaches will help you understand the basics and advanced techniques of FIFA while analyzing your gameplay to be able to take you to the next levels in short notice. There are 4 different tiers, just to make sure you can start off with the coaching on the desired level. Just a quick reminder that we are offering bundles which include both personal coaching services and the Guide Plus membership. For more information, make sure to visit the link down in the description. So this is basically the simplest usage of the right analog stick, and even though I call it simple, it is very important indeed, because you need to be able to switch to the right guy while defending. Especially if the opponent has a fast build up, the right analog switch becomes crucial. So you need to be aware all the time which player you have selected and the next player you will be switching to. The most important thing with this is to realize which player is the closest to the opposition player who will get into the danger zone. Your aim here should be to take a strong advantage position against the attacker once he receives the ball and take the ball away from him after his first touch. Securing one potential danger zone and moving on to secure the next one is the key here. As you can see, after limiting my opposition's chances at the wing, I let my defender go because the attacker will try to pass the ball into a more comfortable zone to get rid of my limitations. The most optimal player to pass to is coming from behind, so I switch to my other defender and then get a strong position against him without overcommitting. After the attacker receives the ball, I use my position advantage and easily get the ball away from him. Getting caught on a counterattack changes the priority of taking the ball away, so you should only try to select the right player who can block the opportunity. In this example, I get caught on a 4v2. I see that a player is running towards the middle, and I try to run alongside him, also seeing the fact that the left wing is wide open, so I will need to switch to my other center back and protect that area as well. If I try to switch with L1 here, I wouldn't be able to switch to my other center back since another random player is marked in the midfield, so I push my right analog stick towards the center back, get him, and move him upwards. I try to cut both the running and the passing lanes, but yet the attacker has a wide space, and I see that I won't be able to block the pass, so I need to confront the other attacker towards the center once he receives the ball. But yet again, one of my other players who is trying to come back to my defense is marked, and with L1 I would switch to him, which then lets the receiver have an open space, and if he has that space, it's basically a 2-on-1. With the right analog switch again, I switch to my last defender and push him a bit towards forward into a strong position, which will also leave the other attacker offside, and it will be a 1-on-1. I hold on to my feet and do not dive in until my team comes back. Being composed after having 2 good right analog switches destroys my opponent's chances. Seeing the passing chances and trying to block them before they happen is the next step of confrontation, and it's again possible with the right analog stick switching. So if you don't want to give your opponent comfortable passing space, you need to use it. This comes mostly handy if your opponent has a readable passing pattern and plays the obvious passes. Here I see that my opponent rushes his passes all the time, so I know he will pass the ball to the middle. With the analog switch, I move my defender towards the passing lane and easily get the ball back. But there's a little trick which is really important, because sometimes you commit too much to cut the pass that you give away an opening for a through ball like my opponent here does. Once you do the player switch here and you get your player towards the passing lane, you need to be able to stop your player by moving the left analog towards the opposition direction, just as I did in this case. Otherwise, it will go through and it's going to be a bit of a problem for you. As long as you try to kill the passing lane, you confuse your opponent and force him to do something else, or an error. In this example, my opponent has multiple passing options, but I try to cut them off one by one, which gets him nervous. And finally, just because he failed to send the passes he has first seen, he gets confused and rushes an unnecessary pass and he loses the ball. With FIFA 21, running behind the defensive line got more dangerous. You have to run alongside the attacker, so it's important to select the right defender before the pass towards the running attacker comes through. We just talked about cutting the passing lanes, but even if you switch to the right guy, that doesn't work in wider spaces. As you can see in the example, I do a perfect switch, but then don't run alongside the attacker, which makes the through ball possible. In the next one, I tap the right analog stick towards the wingback again, and then try to run back with the attacker so I can chase him, which will force my opponent to go for something else. In another example, an opposition attacker is trying to make a run, and from the body language of the passer, I can already tell that my opponent's intention is to pass the ball to the runner. So knowing the fact that my correct right analog switch will let me have the wingback, I start running alongside him instead of trying to cut the passing lane. I won the shoulder challenge while holding on to the L2 button and cleared the ball to safety. Again, the correct right analog switch made that defensive success possible. Another example of chasing runs with the right analog switch is right here. My player fell behind on a counterattack, and even though he's fast, he won't be able to catch the running player, so there is no need to stick to him. My central defender is in a more advantaged position, so with a quick right analog switch I get him. Even though he was marked by the AI, always try to do those switches with the right analog stick. It is 100% safer than the L1 switch because you can't control which player gets marked, and the only manual way to select a player is the right analog switch. Again, with the help of the correct switch, I chase the player and then cut off the pass. Applying pressure manually without having your tactics on pressure or having team press on is really hard in FIFA, since the second man pressing button was changed as the second man contain button. But being able to switch too fast between players and make them move towards the attacker helps you manually press, which I think should be much more effective. With the recent patches, the team press got nerfed, so the manual pressure became more important. You can prevent the opposition from going out from their own half by simply locking all of the opportunities with quick and correct switches, and that is only possible with the right analog stick. Once you achieve this, you will see that they panic and you win the ball. In this position, my opponent is trying to get out of his own half, but I'm keen to deny it. My aim here is to block off the central player's passing lanes by quick right analog switches, so he will be forced to send a long ball towards his wingbacks, and that's exactly my trap. Once he decides to send the ball to his left wingback, I immediately react to it by selecting my right winger and rush at him. He panics, and even though I couldn't recover the ball, I get a touch on it and stress my opponent. Our other example is the perfect one on how to apply pressure with right analog stick. As you can see, I have two players closing off the attacker, and my intention is to keep switching between them and meanwhile get them closer to the attacker. As long as he remains on his targets, which are ahead of him, I can block both passing lanes and he gets to panic. After my third switch, just in a couple seconds, he decides to pass the ball back, but I keep switching and I keep bringing my players forward. As you can see, he has now no one to pass to, so he sends the ball carelessly away just because of my manual press applied only by the help of the right analog switching. Last but not least, I want to talk about the driven crosses. Since the start of the game, driven crosses have been really strong and they do create lethal goal scoring opportunities. It is really hard to block a driven cross unless you get someone towards the destination of the cross, as I did here. Players tend to send driven crosses in too much. Selecting the defender inside the box with the right analog switch and trying to defend manually seems to be a potential solution for that. Let's see a couple examples to that regard. In this one, the opposition got behind my defensive line, and given the runs of his players, my first idea is that he will go for a driven cross because he is a player who is heading inside the box. One of my defenders is running with him, but I need to make sure that he gets in the line once the cross comes in. So with two right analog switches, I get the defender and move him in front of the striker, which then denies the potential threat in front of my goal, and the opponent has to try something else. The other example is a very similar one in which I end up scoring the goal. It's pretty much the same position, but my opponent tried to catch the passer instead of switching to his defender near the box, so I was able to cross, and even though I powered it too much, I was able to score it. If the opponent would have selected his defender and set him in the crossing line, he could have avoided it. So that's it for today's tutorial video. Like I've mentioned at the beginning, if you're started with the right analog switch, it's not going to be easy to get used to it, but still, our goal is to make you a better player, so don't be afraid to try it out. You're going to fail, you're going to experience from that, and then after some practice, you will find yourself in a position where you do these switches comfortably. If this video was useful, don't forget to drop a like and make sure to subscribe to our channel for the upcoming tutorial videos. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Take care and peace.